And we're live.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Young Guns. We're here with friend of the show, Anthony from Sorgi Stories. What's going on, bro?
Nothing much. Just excited for this guaranteed break ball. Going to be a big game for the Badgers. And we'll get into the reasons why here in a minute. But I'm excited as a lot of other Badger fans are.
So I have to ask you to start off with this. Paul Chryst getting fired. Like, what was your first impressions of it? Like, what were you thinking when your coach, who was there a while, got the sack?
Yeah. So some of the viewers might know my dad, he worked in the media. He was with the Badgers radio network for a few years, and him and I would talk often about how moving away from this idea of running the football is going to be good for the program. So, I mean, I find this out. We're about midstream on a Packers stream. I find this out as soon as I get off. I'm playing jump around, celebrating, and I love Paul Chryst, great guy, but I want to get away from the ground and pound and move to what Wisconsin is moving to in the past game.
Well, I mean, because we all know the game itself is transitioning into an air raid attack rather than the old fashioned Woody Hayes 3 yards in a cloud of dust style of offense.
Yeah.
So the fan base as a whole, how do they feel the year went for Wisconsin football?
So I'm not on the ground in Madison talking to these people, but I do. I know I'm halfway across the country, but I can tell you just based off of what I've found out and just what I'm hearing, there's a lot of excitement around the hiring of Coach Fickell, around this new offense. Some fans were disappointed in the season itself, but the future is what they're looking forward to. And the Guaranteed Rate Bowl on the 27th is going to be, I think, what they want as a preview of what's going to come in the future for Wisconsin.
Did you think that Jim Leonhard had a chance to get the head coaching job at Wisconsin, or did you think he had no chance when he was hired as the interim head coach?
So at first, no. But then when he went 4-2, he beat Northwestern, he beat Purdue, he beat Maryland, he beat Nebraska, and then lost to Michigan State and Iowa. Going into the game for the Paul Bunyan's Axe against Minnesota, I'm thinking, this guy wins? Will he get hired? Maybe. And back in what would have been 2019, 2020, around there, the Packers offered Jim Leonhard the defensive coordinator job. And he turned it down, thinking he was going to be the next head coach at Wisconsin. I think that it was inevitable in a way some people thought, but I was holding out hope for something different. He did turn me a little bit, though, when in their first game, they beat Northwestern 42-7 at Northwestern. And I think that showed what the Jim Leonhard run offense could have been. But obviously, we won't know, at least with him at the head coaching position in Madison. But I think the future is bright for Jim Leonhard. He could get a Group of 5 job. The Packers could fire Joe Barry and hire him. I think that there are options for him to come. So we'll see.
So, this year was the first time since 1993, 1994 that Wisconsin has been beaten by Minnesota in consecutive years. What was that like, seeing that? 2021, you get beat by Minnesota on the road, but this year you get beat by Minnesota at home.
Yeah, so I'll kind of say I don't think – obviously, the Paul Bunyan's Axe, it means a lot to Minnesota and Wisconsin. It's a big thing. But, last year, I expected us to win because there was a bitter taste in the Badgers' mouth, I think, from last year. after Minnesota played jump around on the field, which is obviously Wisconsin's song. I think that there were some disappointed guys in the locker room. But I think that just Leonard didn't have it in him. I wasn't expecting a loss, but I wasn't going to be surprised by it. Obviously, we lost that. So it's a big rivalry game. Anything can happen, especially in the Big Ten West. So, I mean, it's interesting. I think, though, that Coach Fickle is going to have to come in and really just understand the culture of especially that game. The Iowa game is big, too, but especially Minnesota. You have to beat Minnesota. That's a huge thing.
So, Anthony, what did you think? Like, did everything just go sour for the Badgers after, like, during the Washington State game? Like, I know that was like they're expecting to. It was a Pac-12 team. Everyone before the season thought the Pac-12 was going to be terrible again.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what turned it for Paul Chryst into like they might actually fire him after that because because the Chancellor of Washington State she tweeted jump up and sit down after the game, and people were kind of laughing at Wisconsin at that time. So do you think that's what really did bad?
I think in a way it did, but also when was Paul Chryst fired? It wasn't after the Washington State game. It was after the Illinois game. Yeah. And that's a game that Wisconsin usually wins. I don't think that there's a cupcake game in football, but if there was, that should be one. Because Illinois is usually not a good football team. Obviously, this year they were, but I think at the time, we didn't know that. So I think it was Illinois more than Washington State, but losing to a Pac-12 team, I was just like, how? I didn't watch the game, but when I saw that score, I wasn't happy with it.
So I guess on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the season and why?
Okay, so 6-6, 4-5 in conference, 2 coaching changes. Right now, on December 23rd, I would say that, I'd give it probably around a 6. But that can change with a win over Oklahoma State. Because I'll be interested. There's not much talent on this Wisconsin team. I mean, quarterback Chase Wolf, over 4 years with Wisconsin, 17 for 31, 176 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. That's not great. When your leading receiver, Shamir Dyke, 44 receptions, 653 yards, 6 touchdowns. And there's not another receiver on that team with 500 yards or more. So, with the little talent that's on the offense, I mean, the defense finished 12th overall. I'll be interested to see what Coach Fickle does. I'll even be more interested to see what happens with the defense in this game. But I think it can change what I would think. It could go up to a 7. A loss probably keeps it as a 6. But I think that it'll be just more interesting. I think that this game can change a lot because you can do good. The defense can play good under a non-Jim Leonard staff. So I'll be intrigued to see how much, in my mind, it'll change after the bowl. So if you really want to ask me that question, I'd ask it on December 28th at about 10 a.m., and I could probably give you a more definitive answer.
Why did Graham Mertz not work out at Wisconsin? Because when he came in, as a recruit, he was highly touted. A lot of people thought that he was going to really, play very well for Wisconsin, have a great career, maybe possibly a chance to be an NFL quarterback. He had a great first game against Illinois. 2 years ago where he threw for 5 touchdowns, but he only had a couple other games where he played really well. But overall, he had a poor career at Wisconsin. Was it more of just his inability to play well consistently, or was it more of the offensive scheme that he was in on why it didn't work out for him?
I don't think that, again, I don't think I can definitively answer that question until I see what Graham Mertz does at Florida. Because, I mean, he wasn't great, but the offense was also built on running the ball. I mean, we saw how great Braylon Allen was last year. And again, this year. 1,126 yards, I think, 10 touchdowns, and that was in 11 games. It's a run-first offense. That's what Wisconsin has run from Barry Alvarez to, what day was Luke Fickell hired? Wasn't it that Saturday after? No, it was the Sunday after rivalry weekend, right?
Yep.
So that would have been the 27th. So from 1993 to November 27th, 2022 is a run-first offense in Madison. Who knows? I think that will change, but you can't judge a guy that's, high prospect until you see him in a different offense, I think.
Right. So what are the strengths and weaknesses that everyone needs to look out for in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl that Wisconsin has?
Well, this is what I'll say, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Oklahoma State to match this.
All right.
Braylon Allen, I think, is going to dominate because out of 131 teams in the FBS, Oklahoma State has the 117th best defense, and that's total defense. So I think that that'll be a problem. The run defense for Wisconsin, we all know how good that usually is. We all know how good the pass defense is, too. Oklahoma State has 3 receivers with over 500 yards. One of them, Brennan Presley, with 739 yards. So I think that it'll be interesting. But it's hard to answer some of these questions because of all the changes that are coming in Madison that already happened. So is it going to be – what are we going to see? Are we going to see Braylon Allen dominate, or are we going to see Chase Wolf go off? It depends on what Luke Fickell's doing. So I think that just based on what we've seen this year so far, I think that our strengths are going to be the run and defense. Our weakness is going to be the pass game. And I think that on the other side, you got 2 backup quarterbacks here. And Oklahoma State has 4 running backs with over 100 yards. I think it's going to be a ground and pound game. But it's Luke Fickell. You never know. That's what I'll say with that. So those are the strengths and weaknesses I see, but don't expect that because it's Luke Fickell.
So how excited are Badger fans for this game to see a glimpse of Luke Fickell, even though it's backup quarterbacks? Are fans still pretty excited about the game?
I'm not on the ground, as I said earlier, but I can only imagine that you're going to see a lot of red in Chase Field.
Yeah.
I think that there's going to be some excitement. Badgers fans love a good party. And I think that there are going to be plenty of them expecting a Badgers win, especially, going into that last week of the season, you start to see more and more of, okay, what bowl are these teams going to be in, that kind of stuff. And if I'm remembering correct, I think that Oklahoma State was one of the projected teams to play Wisconsin in those late weeks. So I don't know. I'd have to look at the TV stats. But if people were tuning into that West Virginia game, they must have been thinking, Oklahoma State isn't that good of a football team. 4-5. Both teams were 4-5 in conference. And we all know which conference is the better one. It's obviously the Big Ten. And Wisconsin did have a loss to Ohio State in there. So that we all know how good Ohio State is. Obviously, TCU's good, and Oklahoma State played them. But I think that there's going to be some excitement there. And let me just say this, if Wisconsin wins, the Phoenix bars are going to be shocked by this, and this is a true story. People at bars in Pasadena, owners of bars have said, "You people are drunk but nice," describing Wisconsinites. So I think that there's going to be a lot of beer consumed in Phoenix if they win. And if they lose, I don't think there's going to be that much negativity because Luke Fickell is yet to bring in his guys. So I think that it's a win-win for Badgers fans, which I think makes them excited. That's what I'll say there.
So what are the keys to victory for Wisconsin in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl?
Run the ball. Run the ball.
Ground the ball.
Run it right down their throat. Let Braylon Allen go off. I was at the game last year. Let me pull up the stats quickly. I haven't been to many Wisconsin games in recent years. I live in Philadelphia. But I was at Rutgers, Wisconsin, in New Brunswick last season. Wisconsin won 52-3. And Braylon Allen, 15 carries, 129 yards with a touchdown. Graham Mertz did have 3 touchdowns that day. But what I'll say about it is that I've seen how good Wisconsin can be, especially in the run game, because the stats don't do it justice. Braylon Allen had a really good day if you just by the eye test. So just run it down their throats. Just ground and pound. That's how you're going to win the football game. I think it's pretty simple. Defense, I think, should perform as they always do, as long as they just kind of stick to what they were doing under Jim Leonard.
I know it's impossible to know how good Luke Fickell's going to do at Wisconsin, how much he's going to improve the team, like their ceiling, but what do Wisconsin fans, what are their expectations for what they think Luke Fickell can achieve at Wisconsin?
Personally, and you'd have to ask other Wisconsin fans on what they think about this personally, with the 12-team playoff, I think you can see Wisconsin yearly in that 6 to 10 range. Maybe one year they get a first-round bye. I think you're going to see Ohio State and Michigan sitting right there, but Wisconsin is going to be knocking at that door, and I think Penn State's going to be knocking on Wisconsin's door. I think it's going to be kind of a chain, but Wisconsin fans should expect, and this is what I'm expecting, at its peak, 11-1. But expect something between 9-3 and 11-1 after Fickell goes through, after he recruits his guys, all that. At first, I mean, it's hard to know what to expect right now at this exact moment, but Wisconsin does have a quarterback coming in, Nick Evers from Oklahoma, who transferred. I don't know how good he is. I'd have to look at some high school film. I've heard that he looked good, but I'll tell you that if Fickell brings in a good quarterback, I think that this team's going to be good and that they could maybe go 8-4 next year. I'd expect 7-5, considering it is his first year, but it's Luke Fickell. You never know. This man took a group of 5 team to the playoff. But I will say the key for Wisconsin's program under Coach Fickell, don't get rid of the ground and pound. Keep it. Add the pass to it. Because RBU, O-line U, defense U, tight end U, whatever you want to call Wisconsin, those 4 things I just named, key. They're insanely key to the future of the program. Just recruit quarterbacks. It seems like Fickell has brought in a lot of new staff that are his guys. But I hope that with Chris McIntosh, the athletic director, and still the presence of Barry Alvarez, him looking over the program, you still see him at Wisconsin games with prominent guys, including Kevin Warren. You see those two sitting in the top suites at Camp Randall a lot. I think that Barry should sit down. He probably has already done this with Coach Fickell and say, I'm the man here. Which we all know that Barry Alvarez is the guy in Madison. You got to just say, this is what it is. You got to keep the run and add the pass on to it. And I think that Barry's going to have a huge influence on that. And Fickell better listen to Barry Alvarez because, Alvarez approved of the hiring. Minutes after it was announced, Barry was interviewed and he approved of it. So I think that I think you just got to keep the run. That's what I say most of all for the Wisconsin program. But as I said, ceiling 11-1, maybe 12-0 season, maybe one. But that's at the best. And that would take really good recruiting classes. I will say, though, Wisconsin's a top 15 revenue-generating program. So I think they have a lot of potential under Fickell. And Fickell is going to use those resources that he has.
So, do you think this is the reason that they hired Fickell was to keep up with the Pac-12 with adding in another blue blood as the USC? They don't want to become they don't want to be a tier below Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, USC. Do you think they wanted to stay at the top? Is that why you think they made the move? Part of the reason?
It could be. I think the reason is that they just realized they need to move on I think they realized that they need to start getting quarterbacks. That's what they need to start doing. And that's the key to this. I think that was the biggest reason for that hiring. But it could be what you're talking about, Will. But I do have to say, to your point, I think that, they want to 12-team playoff. You can be an easy contender every year under Coach Fickell. That's what I'll say about that.
So, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, where would you rate the 2022 season for Wisconsin?
So, I'll go with a 6. I think I answered this earlier. I don't know. 6. Mm-hmm. But maybe a 7 if we win.
Yeah.
Do you think that what is his name? It's Evers, right? The new quarterback?
Nick Evers, yeah.
Nick Evers. Do you think that Wisconsin should have kept Graham Mertz and tried to build him up, or do you think it was time to move on from Graham Mertz as well?
Well, that's Graham Mertz's choice, obviously. Yeah. But as a fan, I didn't want to see him around. I don't have any liking for Graham Mertz. Seems like a nice guy, but on the football field, if you can't, what Golden Blue Dude always says about Neil Brown. Sunday through Friday, I'm going to kind of paraphrase with this to match Graham Mertz's situation. Sunday through Friday, he seems like a nice guy, but on Saturday, he can't perform. And that's what I'll say there. And credit to Golden Blue Dude for saying, just quickly, Sunday through Friday, Neil Brown's a great coach. On Saturday, he can't coach. That's what I was paraphrasing from.
Yeah, I've always, no offense to you or the Wisconsin fans, I don't know that fluky Illinois performance, the COVID year, and everybody was like, oh my god, Graham Mertz is awesome. He's the best ever. We have the next best quarterback in the Big Ten. We're finally going to win it. No, you're not built or meant to win the Big Ten right now.
Oh, well, Buckeye Mike, and this is nothing towards you. But to be fair, I have heard a lot from Ohio State fans over the years.
Well, what I'm saying is, let me paraphrase what my statement. You weren't built. Bringing Luke Fickle in was a smart move.
Yeah.
You guys are definitely heading in the right direction. But at the time, there was no way you guys were going to win the Big Ten in the coming years.
So personally, and I could be wrong here, of what I recall, I was thinking, okay, well, we might have something here. I was excited after watching that game, especially, COVID, you got to stay home. Seeing a Wisconsin huge victory over Illinois with this new quarterback, it's like, okay, we might have something here. And I think that I thought that there was a good chance of that, but obviously that hasn't proven to be true. So I do think that some Wisconsin fans overreacted, but I mean every fan base does that.
Oh, yeah.
Every fan base has that moment where they overreact, and I mean we might see it in the playoff if a team gets blown out. For example, if Ohio State loses, you're going to hear some fans say, "Fire Ryan Day." You're going to hear some say it. Should it happen? Yeah. No. But you're going to hear some say it. If Michigan got blown out, I don't know. If Michigan gets blown out, you might hear Michigan fans say, "Really, we got blown out by TCU?" And there might be a small minority of fans, and they're going to say, maybe we should fire Harbaugh. I think every fan base does it. But that's what I'll say about that. Every fan base has those moments.
If Paul Chryst did not have lost that Illinois game by as much as he did, do you think that Wisconsin would have kept him if they had just lost that game by like 3, like they did against Washington State? Or it was how they lost is what put them over the edge where they fired him?
Okay, so I'm going to look something up because I think I have this right, but I need to check Wisconsin's order of games here. Because I'm looking here at my notes, and hold on. I don't want the deer hunting season. That's what it showed up with. Okay, there. So what happened with the Badgers is okay, so they beat Northwestern. I think that would have happened. If they lose to Michigan State, I think he's fired, and if he isn't there, I think that he's fired against Purdue.
Mm-hmm.
If they lose that game, which it was an 11-point game. I think Wisconsin loses that if Paul Chryst is the head coach. Because Graham Mertz in that game, 2 touchdowns. It wasn't I'm trying to find here. There had to have been a defensive touchdown. Yeah. So I don't think that Mertz throws for 2 touchdowns if Paul Chryst is the coach. But in that Purdue game, but I think he's fired if they lose to Michigan State. That's what I'll say there. I think he's still fired at some point. And at the latest, he's fired against Iowa or Minnesota. At the latest.
So not to skip Jackson, but the way you're saying what you're saying is it's like Paul Chryst had to take the team and go undefeated or lose close every game to not get fired.
Well, they lost to Washington State. They got blown out by Ohio State. No shock there. But they could have played better. They lost to Illinois. But especially with those Washington State and Illinois losses, and I think that to start, there's that. Then I don't think it's you have to win every game, but I also think that there was pressure, and this is just speculation, pressure from those donors who were calling the program or saying, we're tired of this. We just lost to Washington State. We just lost to Illinois. If they don't fire, if they beat Illinois but maybe lose one or two of those other games, I think that the same thing happens. The donors are calling. So I don't think it makes a huge difference. I don't, but I also don't think it's what you're saying where it's you have to win every game. I think he was hanging on by a thread after the Washington State game, and he had to win.
Yeah. So basically, like, I've noticed that like Wisconsin and Oklahoma State this year, right? They were expected to do like real big things. Now, Oklahoma State, for example, was expected to go back to the Big 12 title game, and Wisconsin was expected to win the West Division. But like the thing with Wisconsin was like ever since 2018, they've been underachieving a lot with Paul Chris. Like for example, 2018, they were expected to compete for a playoff spot, but then they lose to BYU at home. Then later in the season, their longest active winning streak against Minnesota ends at home. And then you got like 2020, they go down a little bit. 2021, they come up short. And then 2022, they go down against Washington State, Illinois at home, and they don't win the West Division title again. Does the hiring, you think that the hiring of Luke Fickell, like not only, wins Wisconsin the Big Ten West Division title, but do you think, he's going to be able to end that Big Ten title drought for them? Because I have a feeling he can, but what do you think, Anthony?
Okay, well, Wisconsin's always expected to win the West. They always are. They look at the programs. Iowa. It's Iowa. They can't pass the ball for their life. At least Wisconsin knows how to pass the ball.
Right.
They don't like doing it, but they can at certain points. Minnesota, it's Minnesota.
Come on, Anthony, row the boat with me. Anthony, row the boat.
Sink the boat, always sink the boat. I have good friends that are Minnesota fans, but always sink the boat.
Row the boat.
Mm-hmm.
So then, Nebraska's Nebraska. Obviously, they'll get better.
The corn shuckers.
Under Coach Rule. Purdue is Purdue. Same case as Minnesota there. Illinois, they're improving, but did I miss it? Oh, Northwestern. It's hard to remember Northwestern. They're so bad. So that's what I think though. Like, so you're always expected to win the West, but remember the Big Ten's getting rid of divisions.
Right.
You gotta beat an Ohio State or beat a Michigan if you want to.
Or UCLA.
Yeah, I mean, or USC. USC is going to be right there too with Lincoln Riley. So those three teams in Wisconsin, those are your four that I think can be regular playoff teams. I think Penn State might break through. Nebraska might have a shot at getting there. But they're going to have to beat an Ohio State or a Michigan, and I think under Coach Fickell that they can do that.
Yeah.
And Buckeye Mike, I hate to say this, but I think that beating Ohio State would be great for the program because we all know that Luke Fickell's dream job is Ohio State, and to beat them, I think it would be good for him. I think it would be huge for him, and who knows? You could see. What if we see another repeat of what was that? 2010? Number one Ohio State comes into Camp Randall. Yeah. They get knocked off.
J.J. Watt, baby. J.J. Watt.
J.J., that's my guy.
Right.
Here's the thing, though. Sorry to cut you off. Here's the thing, though, what you were saying. Like, if Wisconsin under Fickell does beat Ohio State under Day, and then say Ohio State's not like the stupid programs like LSU and teams like that where it's like, oh, middle of the season, we'll just fire you now. It doesn't matter how you would finish the year. We'll just fire you now. If they let Ryan Day finish the season and then they fire him for whatever reason, their first call is the Luke Fickle, man. So it's one of those things. It's like, you know, do you really want to see Fick succeed enough to the point that Ryan Day's firing is around the corner? Because the first call is going to be Fick. Second call is going to be Herman down at FAU. Third call, maybe, no promises, but third call, maybe Urban Meyer.
Well, this is what my response will be, and then I'll get back to Jackson's question. If Wisconsin can beat Ohio State, Wisconsin can win a national championship. And if Wisconsin wins a national championship, Luke Fickell will never have to buy anything in the state again.
That's for sure.
And that's the difference between Wisconsin and USC, Michigan, Ohio State. You're building upon the legacy of those schools.
Right.
At Wisconsin, Barry Alvarez, who won a few Rose Bowls, he's the top dog.
Ron Dane, baby.
If you slip in and you win a national championship, you're the top guy that the program has ever had. And I think Fickell wants to be the top guy. And if he's the top guy, will he think about leaving? Yes. Does he leave? I don't know. But to what Jackson was talking about, the other challenge for Wisconsin is the future non-conference schedule. We've got Alabama and Notre Dame. And Alabama, who knows if Saban's going to be there at that point. But if he is, that's going to be interesting. I think it'll be interesting if Saban is there, especially because, and this is going to be getting a little off Wisconsin, but my other team's West Virginia. My mom's from there. And Alabama plays Wisconsin and West Virginia back-to-back in some order, I think. So I think that in that range of those years, if Alabama's still what they are right now or in the past few years, I think that it'll be interesting to it'll be interesting to see what happens leading up, especially and with Notre Dame. Notre Dame at Lambeau. I'm praying that is a primetime NBC game.
I smell a big nooner, but who knows?
Well, it is a Notre Dame home game.
Oh, okay.
But the only thing, though, is that the Big Ten does have the primetime game by that time on NBC. So who knows what happens there. But, point being, Notre Dame, Alabama coming up. Those two, it's going to be tough between them and Ohio State and Michigan and USC.
Right. And
so I do think there's potential, though. That's what I'll say. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, to that point where you were talking about NBC just now, that Big Ten TV contract that's coming up starting next year, do you think that had something to do with Luke Fickell coming over to Wisconsin in a way?
I've not thought about that. That's a really good question. This is what I'll answer with, because I have to do a lot of thinking on that. I think that it will have, and I'm going to get Will involved here, I think it'll have more of effect with my prediction of Notre Dame, Oregon, Washington, and Stanford coming to the Big Ten. That package, that TV deal will have more to do with realignment and seeing schools like Notre Dame and Oregon coming over than it'll have to do with coaching. But I think that could have influenced it. But, yeah, that's what I'll say there.
So with Luke Fickell, we've all agreed that they could ascend to potentially, the top three of the Big Ten, competing with Ohio State and Michigan every year, making the playoff almost every year at the ceiling. Right now, how many programs are ahead of Wisconsin in the Big Ten in your mind?
At this exact moment, 3. Penn State still has James Franklin. And when USC comes in, they could be 4. But by that point, Penn State might be here compared to Wisconsin up here.
Mm.
And I think, though, that, as I said, I don't know if Wisconsin is going to be a top 3 team. I think that usually they will be, but they can break through. They can break through into that top 2. 1, they might get a bye. I think that it's going to be, there's potential for more than top 3, but right now I think that they're number 4.
So,
Go ahead.
so you think that Penn State's going to fall on its face next year? Because I believe USC and UCLA come in 24, I believe.
Yes, they do. They got one more year. They got one more year in the Pac-12. So I don't think Penn State's going to fall on their face, but I think Wisconsin is going to jump Penn State. Right now, I think that Penn State is here and Wisconsin is kind of sitting below them. Michigan State might be around there. Obviously, they didn't have that good of a year this year, but they have potential as well. But Wisconsin, I think, under Fickle is going to leapfrog and get up here and maybe they'll pull Giannis and jump over Michigan and Ohio State. Maybe they'll dunk on that basketball hoop, embarrass Ohio State, embarrass Michigan, make the playoff. But I think that will happen once or twice. That they can, I think that they can win the playoff, but I don't expect it to be multiple times. But I do think, yes, Penn State is above Wisconsin at this exact moment. I don't think they're going to fall. I just think Wisconsin is going to leapfrog.
So, if I would put the assumption of you believe that Wisconsin could win or would win the Big Ten next year, how confident would you feel in that assumption?
Not confident. I mean, if we're on a scale of dark green to dark red, with yellow being right in the middle and red being not confident, I'm probably in that red-orange color, if we think of it that way. I think that I'm not that confident. As I said, 7-5, 8-4, maybe 9-3 next year. Depends on. I mean, I know that we've had a lot of portal movement. We can still see more. So depending on what happens,
See, the funny thing too is like with the records that you listed, it's funny to Jeffrey's point on the shows that all those records could win the division. You don't. No offense to a team that has that record,
Yeah.
but you don't deserve to win the division with that record.
No.
But that record can, because of how crappy the West Division and the Big Ten is, any of those 3 records can win you the division.
Yeah, well, this is what I'll say. What I expect out of Wisconsin every year, like what I did expect, is 9-3, go to the Big Ten championship, get blown out by Ohio State. Anywhere, I would say 10-2 to 8-4, 9-3 probably being. You're gonna get blown out by Ohio State every year. That's what I would expect. Now I'm thinking you could go 11-1. Maybe you pass. Maybe Michigan or Ohio State. Maybe they go 10-2. Maybe they have a little bit of a down year. Or maybe you're 11-1 and Michigan's 11-1, but you beat Michigan. If it's one, I think that the expectations are going to be now, especially without divisions, for Wisconsin, that you can. I think it changes because they're going to go up, and I think that you'll see a sudden change at Wisconsin. Maybe 2 or 3 years of a climb, and then they, I think, are just going to stay there and go between 12-0 and 10-2 every year. And they're not going to go down until Fickle leaves. And Luke Fickell is, how old is he? He
50-ish, if I had to guess, 50-ish.
He's 49.
Mm-hmm.
He's 49. He's got plenty of time at Wisconsin. So that's what I would say there. Yeah. Right now, Wisconsin wouldn't deserve to be there, but in the future they will.
So, do you think if 10-2, between 10-2 and 12-0 is the expectation, do you think that you'll start to see the Wisconsin fan base react like majority of the Michigan and Ohio State fan base of like, oh my God, we went 8-4 randomly one year. Fire coach, fire somebody.
Wisconsin fans, and this is no offense to Ohio State and Michigan fans.
You're not like us.
We're Big Ten West people to start, and we've learned and we're used to this. I think that there's going to be excitement, and you'll see some that will be mad, but I will say you probably won't see as much here on YouTube. You might see some on Twitter and Mastodon, whatever that new platform's called that my dad talks about all the time. I don't know. Instagram, the other social media pages. I think you'll see more. But Wisconsin fans are going to, you won't see much. You'd have to go on the ground because Wisconsin fans are going to be at the Floating Perch or whatever bar. I just made that up. They're going to be at their bars talking with their friends about it. So it's going to be hard to judge, but I think it's going to be less anger and more just kind of like, let's do better next year. Because people in Wisconsin tend to think positively, unless we're talking about the Green Bay Packers. And then it's that level of passion. I mean, you can see the Packers hat that I'm wearing right now. Right now, it's for a good amount of the fan base, it's get rid of Aaron Rodgers, get rid of Aaron Rodgers. And we could have a whole nother hour-long discussion about that. But that's, I think, for the Badgers, there's less passion than for the Packers. And with the Packers, Brewers, Bucks all being there and all usually performing well, I think that it can be, okay, well, let's turn our attention to the Bucks. Let's turn our attention for Marquette fans to Marquette, or for Badger fans to the basketball team. There's more there that you can. I don't think it's going to be as much disappointment because the Badgers aren't number one in the state.
Are you Team Jordan Love right now, Anthony? I'll just ask you.
I am all Team Jordan Love. I am very pro. I've been putting in YouTube chats for the NFL all over. We want Love. That's what I want. I want Jordan Love. I don't care for Aaron Rodgers. So, as I said, I could go on for a long time about that. But that's what I'll say about that. I'm very pro Love.
But yeah, do you think Jordan Love will get that fifth-year option in the offseason?
If Brian Gutekunst is smart, and if he's not, I don't know where the certificate is, but I've got it somewhere. I'm an owner of the team, and if I get the chance, I will go to that shareholders meeting and I'll say something about it.
Okay.
If they don't give him that option, because Jordan Love has performed so well. I mean, against one of the top defenses in the NFL, he led the team to 10 points in a quarter. In his second ever game that he actually played a decent amount for. 10 points against one of the top defenses in the NFL in a quarter? That's not bad. It's not. Especially with no idea that he was going to be playing. Aaron Rodgers got hurt. And the Packers we're filming this on the 23rd, right, with a Commanders loss, or with a Commanders win over the 49ers, and a Packers loss against the Dolphins on Christmas. Packers are eliminated, and we're going to see – I hope we're going to see Jordan Love against Minnesota and against Detroit.
Right.
Come on, Commanders. Let's go. Chase Young's back, baby. Chase Young's back. Let's go.
Do more
Let's
Packers
go.
fans want Jordan Love or Aaron Rodgers?
I'd go to Twitter for that. I can try to find my dad's poll on Twitter about that.
Jordan, what? Jordan.
I'm right there. I'm right there. I
I'm just
need to
wondering
find that poll that he put up. Let me see.
what happens to my idea if I trade Aaron Rodgers. Are you ready for it?
If we were to trade Aaron Rodgers, I couldn't find the poll. Oh yeah,
Well,
trade him. Get whatever you can for him.
I'll tell you the team you need to trade him to if you want to trade him. The Jets.
I've been saying it. I've been saying. My prediction is that Aaron Rodgers will be a quarterback in the state of New Jersey in 2023. Whether that's with the Giants, the Jets, or he could fall off a cliff and end up with the New Jersey Generals.
Yeah. But yeah.
But the first two are probable.
Yeah.
The first two are most likely.
In Buckeye Mike, I see the Eagles logo. Go Birds. I'm sitting in Philly. I saw the Eagles logo.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah.
Go
Yeah,
Birds.
if Aaron Rodgers goes to the New Jersey Generals, hypothetically, he should just retire, man.
Yeah, that was more of a joke. But
I know,
yeah.
me too.
USFL, baby.
There we
Yeah.
go. But
AJ
yeah.
McCarron's actually going to be in one of the, I think, the XFL.
Well, I like the XFL more than the USFL just because of their ties with the NFL now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be watching the XFL closely. I'm excited for that. So, I think it's going to be fun.
Well, fun fact about this version of the XFL, you guys know it's owned by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, right?
Mm-hmm.
Among others, yes, he is the primary guy.
And it was Vince McMahon 2 years ago.
Probably better that it's The Rock.
It may last longer since it's The Rock.
Yeah. It's better for the image of the XFL and just for the morals of the XFL.
I was going to say, especially after all the crap that's come out about Vince lately. Oh.
Yeah.
But does the XFL become the next AFL is a question where they become part of the NFL?
No, the XFL becomes the minor league of the NFL.
Ooh,
I think that the XFL becomes the NBA G League of the NFL. And I would love to see a system where that practice squad is your XFL team. What if, just potentially, it's like hypothetically, and this is just an idea.
Right.
From the time the NFL starts the weekend after Labor Day and ends in February, we all know that.
Mm-hmm.
What if the USFL became a minor league and the XFL went after the USFL and became a preseason league and became the XFL is where you're going to see these kids coming out of college play, and then the USFL would be that. The XFL would be like a mix of the two, where you see Jordan Love playing with Jordan Addison.
Ooh.
Something like that kind of thing.
I think the XFL has a much better shot of making it than the USFL.
Oh, for sure, without a doubt.
I think that is the XFL's goal. At least under the Rock, it is.
Yeah.
But or another equivalence would be like XFL is the MILB to the NFL's MLB.
Well, this is what I'll say though. The MILB, and I'm a bigger baseball guy than I am football. I love baseball to death. I'm my Brewers are my team over anyone. If you said you get to watch the Brewers, Packers, Bucks, Wisconsin, and Marquette, I'd say if you wanted to go to any of those, I mean, if I was to watch it, I'd probably take the Packers or the Badgers. They play less games. But who do I like more? The Brewers. Who would I rather go see? Probably the Brewers. And I apologize about that because speaking of baseball, I just saw that there was a trade, so that's why I checked my device right there because I saw that there was a trade in baseball.
You
But-
stay loyal to your team, you're going to see them win a World Series, and you're going to be very happy. Let's just put it that way.
if the Brewers win a World Series,
Like,
I
take it
don't
from
know
me.
what I'm gonna do.
Guys, I gotta head out. I'm gonna end the recording, and you guys can just keep talking. Is that okay?
Uh,
Yeah, that's fine. We're kind of off topic of this.
yeah, we are
anyway.
completely
Yeah.
off topic, but that's what a good sport.